The triumph of goodwill, love, and inspirational harmony. A movie that'll go down in the annals of history as the happiest, funnest time you'll ever have in front of your TV screens. Mary Poppins, the new Disney one. But for real, the saddest, most depressing movie you've ever seen. Ilem Klemov's Come and See. So, what are your impressions of this lovely jaunt through the Belarusian forests?
This movie had been hyped up a lot.
By
obviously.
me?
Yeah, you hyped it up a lot. Well, I didn't watch any videos on it on YouTube, but months ago I had saw a thumbnail of someone showing this movie, and they're saying the greatest horror movie ever made is not a horror movie. It was this.
A YouTube video?
Yeah, it was a YouTube video, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Either that or it was an article. So I went in with really, really high expectations of kind of bracing myself to be pretty disturbed. And I'll be honest, I didn't love it. Good film. It's definitely a good film. But I can't say I'm really ever going to watch it again.
That's surprising to me.
Yeah, and it wasn't even because I was like disturbed. I really wasn't disturbed at all. Maybe that's just because I'm so desensitized to shit. But a lot of things in this film, I feel like other filmmakers were probably inspired by, and so there's just elements where I've like, okay, I've kind of seen elements of these and really fucked up war films. So
Number one that comes to my mind right now is Spielberg D-Day movie when the explosion goes off and he's like, you hear the ringing and just see the carnage all around him.
right, yeah, and Saving Private Ryan.
There you go.
That and Schindler's List, obviously. I'm sure he got some inspiration.
Yeah.
For kind of the feel of the movie, kind of getting that. I think this is a tough film for me to kind of go in depth on because I don't know.
You've seen elements of it so many other times.
Yeah, I've seen so many elements of it, and especially even like kids in a war film. I just watched Jojo Rabbit last year, which is about a little kid joining, Hitler Youth thing.
I still haven't seen it.
So it's like even shades of that, because that movie, while it is a comedy, shit gets real in that movie. It's one of those cases where this was probably one of the first war films to ever really tackle a lot of this kind of disturbing things. But even the family outside of all the dead bodies kind of stacked up. I've seen so many movies where you kind of go into a village and then, okay, it's empty, and then you find the bodies. And it's not bad. It's a good film. It's just, I think seeing it so much later is...
It definitely hurt your, I want to say enjoyment, but your, how you feel about the movie.
Yeah, how I kind of feel. It's tough to put into words.
I personally love this movie, but obviously I've seen it probably 10 times since I first saw it. It loses its edge each time I see it, but it really connects with me. The inverse of a hero's journey. He starts off, he's excited, he's patriotic, he's going to go kill them Nazis, he's going to become a hero in the eyes of his countrymen. And slowly, all that's taken away from him, and he fully understands war. I remember before the Iraq War, like 2003, it was in the papers, it was on the news. George Bush, we're going to war with you, Iraq, if you don't hand over what was it, weapons of mass destruction. And I remember as a boy, like, oh, this is kind of neat. This is kind of exciting. I've never been alive during a war.
Right.
Yeah, this movie, it really highlights war. It doesn't make heroes. It only loses them.
Yeah, it's completely about the horrors of war. It's encapsulating that. The thing about it is that the director doesn't really shy away from it. He likes to keep the camera still and hold on characters' faces and really see kind of their pain, their anguish, even showing clear PTSD that the main actor is going through, especially at different points in the film. Like, that's another case of I've seen other movies do that. Just hold on to people and you can kind of see
Their anguish.
yeah. I don't really have necessarily negatives to the film because, like you say, it's a journey. I did find myself getting frustrated with just the amount of time spent in the woods in the beginning.
I thought that may be a problem for you and others who watch this, but it takes a little bit of time. I'd say 30, 40, maybe even 50 minutes before it starts to ramp up. But once it starts ramping up, it doesn't stop. It just keeps escalating.
Once the bombs start going off in the woods, that's when the movie turns into the next phase.
Even still then, he's still laughing, having fun, hanging out with this pretty girl. They're laughing, having fun, not really grasping the true severity of their situation.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely an innocence to him. Even when he first goes with the soldiers at the beginning and he gets hit in the face, gets into the truck, and he's kind
But for some reason, he pushes him and he ends up falling to the ground.
right. And even when he's in the truck and everything like that, he's got a big
Horse-drawn carriage.
right. He's got a big smile on his face and everything. He's excited.
He's going to be a man now. He's going to be a hero. He's going to fight.
Right. Now that he found the rifle in the sand, which that was interesting. Just the concept of them digging and other soldiers being buried and their weapons being down there. I never really thought necessarily of that somebody would digging in the sand for try to find a weapon. So that was interesting at the beginning. I will say the other kid that was with him, that little kid, he sounded like he smoked a carton of cigarettes a day.
Yeah, he was imitating the old man. When he spoke normally, he sounded like a regular little kid, but he did imitate that old man a real long time.
Yeah.
He eventually, as he finds his gun, the little one comes up with something in his mouth and he barks like a dog for some reason.
Right. Yeah, there's a few moments in the movie like that where it's like, I don't know if it's almost like surrealism or something like that.
The whole thing, it feels kind of, there's a lot of points where it feels dreamlike in the fog as all the buildings are burning and there's smoke everywhere. His face, I've read that he was hypnotized. I don't know if that's true or not, but it certainly looks like that may be the case.
I heard the director wanted to have him hypnotized because he was young and there was just so many graphic scenes, but I heard that he didn't take to it.
Okay. Well, going back to your point about you've seen the PTSD, this journey so many times, what really sells it for me is he starts off looking like a happy, healthy young boy, and by the end he looks like a goddamn zombie.
Well, the best example that I could do, which was actually recent, which is interesting because I believe the Criterion you have has Roger Deakins on it. This year, 1917, came out in wide release. After watching this, it's very clear that Roger Deakins, as far as the way he shot 1917, was very inspired by this movie.
Ronca, твоя заскучай. Пошли.
Mm-hmm.
There's loads of steady cam. You're following one character. You're going through his journey. You're looking at his face, the horrors. So as I was watching this, I was like, wow, okay, a lot of 1917 was clearly inspired by this film here. I don't know if you watched that behind the scenes featurette on the Criterion at all.
I haven't watched it yet. I'm kind of disappointed in the Criterion Collection's cut. I realized they wanted to be as close to what the director wanted as possible, but the audio is one channel.
Oh yeah,
You can at least give me an option for stereo, if not 5.1.
right. It was it recorded in mono?
It must have been. I watched it. I've seen it twice since I bought it. I watched it on my home theater system. The audio didn't really impress me. It was sounded better coming through my TV speakers because then at least it was coming from two sources.
Oh, okay. So what were you originally watching it through a sound bar?
No. My I got a 5.1 setup,
Oh, okay.
a shitty Sony home theater in a box, but it gets the job done.
Okay. All right. It's tough for me to talk about this movie because I feel like you're just gonna spoil it.
So let's do a pre-spoiler recommendation. Would you recommend people see this movie?
It's tough for me because I feel like there's a lot of caveats. I think obviously if you don't like foreign film, I'm not sure you're really gonna like this. If you like war films and you're open to like horrors of war movies like The Pianist, even though it's different, if you can endure that, then yeah, it's a recommendation. If you just love Criterion, watching films that they put out, but it's tough for me to recommend this for.
To everybody.
Yeah, I mean, the casual moviegoer, I wouldn't recommend this to.
Just because it's in a foreign language, they're not going to see it.
Right, yeah, even like a step above that, because it's not an easy movie to sit through, and I'm not just talking about the material. It's very methodical.
Slow burn, essentially.
Yeah, and you really got to pay attention. You got to focus and look at everything that's being shown, the image, because there's a lot of symbolism in this movie that's repeated that I picked up on when something very specific happens. Woods, that theme gets constantly repeated. Like I say, it's a recommendation if you're like hardcore into film, but I can't really recommend it to many other people, honestly.
I get that.
Yeah.
Another thing about the director Ilham Klimov, apparently he was living in Stalingrad during World War II, so that obviously gave him plenty of images to work off of.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of inspiration right there for sure. Yeah.
I would say basically the same thing you said. If you're soldiers, people who've actually been to war and are not like totally fucked up from it would probably enjoy this or at least recognize it as a representation of some of their experiences. Big film buffs definitely see it. Honestly, I'd recommend it to everybody, but I know that's unrealistic because I really like the movie and I know plenty of people probably wouldn't.
Yeah, if you have an open mind and you already like foreign film, I would say definitely give it a chance. I wouldn't blind buy this at all. I would definitely tell people to stream it on the Criterion app because
doing any other way would be illegal, right?
Right. And also, I think you could, if you pay a lot of money for this, you could see somebody being like, I don't know.
All right, so I guess that moves us into spoilers. Essentially, a young Belarusian boy joins the Belarusian resistance with hope and triumph in his eyes. Ends up going through some of the worst torments and pain I think I could have seen.
Honestly, it's hyped up so much that I was waiting for all of the horrific elements, and I was unsettled by things that maybe certain people wouldn't be. There's a scene when the young kid, our main actor, and the girl is with him, and they've run away from the house after he's gone back to his village, and they're just going through the mud. And it's just like all the way up to their waist, and it's almost like they're going to sink in. That's the thing with this filmmaker is he just begging for him to cut.
You're going to experience exactly what these kids are experiencing.
This kid, he's just trying to get through this super thick mud. It's just all the way up to practically his neck, and he's screaming as he's trying to break it with his rifle. It's an unsettling image. I'm not claustrophobic. If you went outside as a kid and you've ever been in quicksand or anything like that, there's a very helpless feeling there.
Anxious.
Yeah, as you're watching that, you feel this sense of you want to help these people out. I just don't know what's going to happen at that point in the movie. It almost looks like the girl's about to go under at one point.
And he almost fucking kills her if not for that big Russian dude.
Yeah, and actually that does lead me into a question, because I have multiple questions. When they go back to his village and they go in the house, you can hear all the flies and everything, but there's food on the table, there's food that's rotted. He turns and he looks, and you see all these dolls lined up. Now,
Symbolism.
right, now, was that a figment of his imagination? Was that actually...
No, because the girl saw it too. She sees the dolls strewn about on the floor, spits up her food. They leave pretty quickly after that.
Right, but my mindset was, okay, well, clearly, because we don't see her actual perspective, if I'm right. We see that she turns and looks, and then she spits out her food. And so I'm wondering, did he snap there because his family was actually laid down on the floor, but he projected in his mind dolls?
It could be, but would she really just sit down and calmly eat with him if there's 3 or 4 bodies just lying on the floor?
Right, I don't remember, but I don't think she looked over there before she sat down to
It's
eat.
possible.
Yeah, that's one thing where I was his family outside of the house laid down, or did they just line up all the bodies right there?
It would make sense because when you, as you described the scene, you come in, there's flies, there's food on the table, there's a lamp lit in the window. It's clear he's in denial, and she's, at least if not skittish, she's at least more aware of what the possibility is.
Right. That's another like really striking image. They're eating the food, like, oh, mom cooked this, and that seems like, okay, he's definitely kind of snapped at this point.
Yeah, he's definitely in denial about it. That's another thing about this movie I really enjoy is the imagery. It didn't really affect you as much. When I first saw that, they're running and she turns. He doesn't even notice it. He doesn't see. She turns. There's just a pile of women and children up against this back of the house.
That would have more impact to me. But it's like, especially Holocaust dramas and things like that, I've seen quite a few.
Even things like Shutter Island, I think in one of his dreams or hallucinations, we see just piles of frozen bodies.
Right. I mean, we've seen so many films that I've seen that type of imagery before. And it's a striking image. Obviously, they're all stacked up against the wall of the building.
You've been desensitized.
Right. Yeah, there is a level of desensitized I've been. I was on guard. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for this shit. I'm ready for this horrific shit. Wow, I guess I've just seen so much.
Yeah.
The only image I really saw was the one where he's got the gun against his head. That's the big, I think that may be the biggest one for me. Here's what happens. He escapes to a little village. This old man helps him acclimate himself with the village and the villagers. They round up every single person in the village, throw them into a barn. They say, if you leave your kids in there, you can escape, you can go. He gets out. They're holding him. They start burning, shooting every structure in the village, the barn filled with people. Throwing grenades in there.
Yeah, throwing grenades too. 4 or 5 SS Nazi guys, they grab the kid. He's on his knees. They hold a pistol right to his head. A photographer comes up, snaps a picture. Zoom in right to his face. The horror on his face is perfect. And then they just toss him aside like garbage.
Right. And that parallels the very beginning of the movie. The director kind of does things in multiples. At the very beginning of the film, when he's with these freedom fighters, picture, and he's got a smile on his face, and he's sitting down on the ground, and the one photographer, he's got one picture left. He keeps running over to the guy with bandages on his head to lift his arm up. He's got
Hold the grenade.
Yeah, and so that kind of perfectly parallels the beginning and kind of the end of the film with those 2 pictures, the side of the rebels and then the Nazis. So that's another really interesting choice that the director made.
But also, I'm not saying I fault them, but the rebels, they end up just like the Nazis. They gather, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 of them. and then just gun them down. The ending kind of reminded me of the ending of M. Do you remember that?
Yeah, the kind of mob mentality thing.
Most of them are pleading for them to be set free or not killed.
The other thing I did want to bring up, there's a woman in the film, she's an SS officer, and she's eating crab legs as the barn's burning. It felt over the top to me, I'm going to be honest. Like, all right, okay, I get it. These people are really fucking evil. She's eating
They're
crab
really
legs.
indifferent to the slaughter of these innocent people.
And then not long after, we see the Jeep with her flipped over, and she's just bleeding to death. She's gargling. Our lead actor is just kind of staring at her as she's dying. That was kind of interesting because it's like, okay, well, she's pulling apart a crab and eating it, watching people die, and then now she's been kind of pulled apart. Maybe I'm reaching a little here. Flipped over in a Jeep, dying slowly.
Now the tables have turned.
And there is joy in the movie, a little bit of joy when you see, okay, it looks like the rebellion, it looks like things are turning for them. He's walking kind of freely. He goes and gets his guns and his uniform again. Okay, they're killing the Nazis now, and things, the rebellion has done some good. It's not just completely, okay, everybody's fucked here. So there is some hope.
I kind of wish, you mentioned earlier how he just stays on these images and doesn't cut away. I could have seen, maybe he did to not glorify war. I kind of wish I had seen the resistance come upon the caravan of soldiers. You see the kid walking through the forest, then cut. Nazi woman who was eating lobster, gun firing from whatever vehicle they were in, and everybody's basically dead except for the 7 or 8 defendants, let's say.
Right.
Who are about to get shot anyway.
Well, that's the thing about the Russian film is that I don't know if they had the ability to have like, squibs and stuff, because when anytime someone gets hurt, die, you don't see bullet hit them and then the blood explosion. It's always you cut to them and then they're bloody and bleeding. I think there was probably some form of limitation because besides a couple scenes in this movie, it seems like this could be a very, very low budget movie. You know, besides the shells going off in the forest, which is incredible. Seeing them running, which is parallels 1917 as well. There's a shot in the movie where characters running and there's just all these bombshells going off. It's incredible. I did really like seeing that. But like I said, most of the movie takes place in the wood. It doesn't seem like he had like a tremendous budget.
No, I don't know about that. Do you really think the Soviet cinema, they couldn't put together or afford squibs?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure because he used live ammunition. So, and I will say there is another striking image with the film of when it's nighttime and they're shooting and you see the bullets and they're all yellow just flying, and it's that's a pretty intense image.
One more, since you brought up another image, I'll bring up one more. When he first is at the resistance camp, he's a night watchman. The commander comes up, his face in the darkness. I'm talking Belarusian forest, pitch dark. You just see this dude's face emerge from the ether. It's striking.
Почему не стрелял?
Я узнал вас, товарищ командир.
Раз не остановился, не назвал пароля, идет, бей.
Дык я ж...
Не имеет значения. Наряд.
That scene, when you're focused on his face, is very horror film-esque. And there's another scene in the forest with the girl where her face completely changes and it's almost demonic.
She starts squinting and has this very, very shit-eating grin on her face. They're talking about...
Птиц не слышишь. Глухой. Слепой. Вот же я.
That's another big theme in the movie. You're deaf, you're blind, you don't see me, and I'm right here.
Yeah, at that point I was like, wait, where is this movie going? Is this... I got confused. I was like, oh, wait, is she like a Nazi or something like that? Is she going to kill this kid? I don't know. My mind was kind of racing.
My idea was she was upset because either she had been sleeping with the commander Cossack, however you want to say it, and he didn't reciprocate her notions of love, children, and marriage. That's how they first start communicating, is she's crying about that, and he's crying because the commander wanted to protect him, so he left him there. To see how that worked out. Are there any other images that really stuck out to you?
Yeah, the very first one that I really noticed, and as soon as it happened, I was like, okay, well, this is clearly this is the beginning of kind of the descent into hell. When he's walking through the woods and he steps into the eggs.
And there's flies and stuff on he turns back towards them and there's flies and you can see the little dead baby chicks.
Embryo, and that theme is repeated multiple times. Both him and this girl, it's like they're the eggs, they're in the forests, they're going to be going.
And a goose-stepping boot is stepping right on them, crushing them.
Yeah, the Nazis are the boot. Later on in the forests, he makes this little, basically like nest kind of thing, a cover, like a little cave. And they're both inside there, they're sleeping. So that's another direct image to the eggs being smashed. Obviously, the bird looks at them.
The bird.
Yeah.
I was going to mention that next. There's this stork. I don't know what it is, but it's walking around. The ominous music is playing. It's another sign that, okay, there was just a bombing, but that's another thing I love about this movie, the escalation. There was just a bombing. All your friends who were at the camp are dead, and they're asleep. We're going to go home. We're going to go to my house. My mom's going to love you. We're going to feed you, and you're going to like my sisters. They fall asleep. This stork, just ominous music playing, sticks its head into the tent, looks at the camera. Okay, things are not going to get any better from this point forward.
The nest theme also gets repeated once more. I believe it's on top of the church or another building. There's like this giant interwoven nest, and one of the Nazis is bashing it with his rifle butt.
That or he's stabbing it with a bayonet. I couldn't really... Either or.
Yeah, so once again, that's the imagery of the nest being destroyed, unsettled. And I can see why a lot of people would be disturbed by the burning barn scene. But to bring up other movies, if you've ever seen The Patriot with Mel Gibson.
Oh, Jesus Christ, you fucking ass. Who made The Patriot again?
Roland Emmerich. I actually really like it.
You fucking scumbag. I don't mind it. It's not terrible. It's not bad, but to me, it's a blah movie.
I like it. I like the action, especially the tomahawk scene. But there's a scene in The Patriot, spoilers for The Patriot, where loads of people...
We're going spoiler inception here.
Right, yeah. Loads of people are loaded inside a church by one of the redcoats. And the whole church, including Mel Gibson's son, is lit on fire and they all die. So...
Was Jason Isaacs the antagonist?
Jason Isaacs was the head of kind of the British...
the battalion, the platoon, whatever they called it.
I saw that very young, so that's always really stuck with me. People being burned alive, and Roland Emmerich being, I think he's from Germany or something. I'm sure he saw Come and See. I'm sure that was another probably source of inspiration for him to put that in Patriot. So it's once again, I feel like I've seen bits of this film throughout the years of my life without actually seeing it.
Another recommendation, if you're a big fan of film, just like watching Mean Streets and then watching later Scorsese movies, that you can see the threads of his future works.
Yeah. There's a scene in the film, they go to the rebel camp later in the film, and they're cutting his hair. This little girl, I think.
Oh, no, hold on one second. It wasn't a rebel camp. It was just a place where villagers escaped to. It was just ramshackle hideout. Yeah.
They cut his hair, and I believe it's a little girl or an older girl. She takes his hair and she puts it in what I believe is a rabbit hole. Now, I haven't done any research on this, but I'm assuming there must be some type of folklore about putting hair inside of a rabbit hole or some type of meaning behind that. That really stuck out to me. Okay, you're taking his hair. Like I said, it looked like a rabbit hole, and putting it down there. That was interesting to me. That I really took note of.
I'm not so. I remember seeing it, but I thought they were just using his hair for the Adolf statue.
All right, maybe. Yeah, that I will say that was another weird aspect of this film. The whole statue thing that didn't necessarily work for me. Okay, I know there's going to be some payoff for this. There's a reason why they're doing it. I mean, it obviously has clear ties to the very end of the film with the poster. But once again, the director does things in twos very methodically.
The way that they were talking, I thought that they like put explosives in it or something because he's like, it's gonna go boom, it might blow up all of Europe or something.
Yeah, that was that was a weird scene. It was just weird the way that they were making it with the clay and stuff. Where are we exactly going with this? I did find myself getting frustrated when they get the cow and they stop in the middle of the field and I understand that they've been starving, they're hungry, they're so hungry that they're like, oh my God, we have milk, oh, it's delicious. But obviously you're rooting for people and it's just, Jesus.
Why are you stopping? Keep running, get to the forest.
Keep fucking going, get to cover. And obviously all the shit really fucking hits the fan.
We'll close out the images. Another one for me is the cow.
The eye of the cow, yeah. That's with the fly just kind of going in his eyelid and stuff.
And its eye just twitching back and forth. Did that bother you? I'm pretty sure they definitely killed a cow. Did that have any effect on you?
I was worried as I was watching this, the egg scene. Okay, you really did crush those eggs. Babies in there. I really don't like that, and it's a facet of older films. Even in there's a Sam Peckinpah film called Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. He dug holes in the ground, put chickens in the ground, and shot the heads off. Even I've been revisiting some older westerns. They tie a rope to the legs of the horses so they could get them to fall a specific way, and so many horses died. It's just
that happened in this movie too.
Yeah, it's a very unfortunate aspect that I just don't agree with, and especially this film being in 1985, that did bother me, but after looking into the film, that's kind of the least of my problems. I think there's another thing the director did that was really just unacceptable.
Using real bullets?
Yes, live ammunition. I can't believe that anyone would do that. Honestly, it's very disturbing.
Okay.
But it had an effect, but I read that there was bullets whizzing over his head. He almost got, it was like, come on, man.
Yeah, no art is worth somebody's life.
Right, yeah, and I'm not familiar with a lot of Russian cinema, so I don't know as far as did they have a lot of access to blank, are things kind of primitive so that they had to film in these ways, but that's something I don't think any filmmaker should ever. That's really pushing things to a very severe thing. As far as I know, nobody died on this movie, but
it's the Soviet Union. You might not ever find out if somebody died. Personally, I can understand your problems with it, but it doesn't bother me. The cow's going to end up getting killed and slaughtered at some point anyways.
Yeah, the cow thing, if the crew ate it, that'd be a good thing, waste the life. If it was just for the shot and then I'm just going to leave the carcass out here and rot, then it's like, okay, well, I'm not a fan of that.
No. To segue into our next topic, let's say plot, what I really like about the plot is that they take one step forward and two steps back every single time. They get a cow, they're going to feed the entire village. Oh, two guys die in a landmine accident. The one guy gets shot. Okay, at least I can save the cow. I can get the cow back to the villagers. No, they shoot the cow too. Oh, okay, I can cut the cow up and bring it to the villagers. I'm going to steal this guy's horse and carriage. Oh, no, the Nazis are coming right now.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that's another thing. It's reminiscent of, so many films I've seen of everything going wrong, which is an aspect of life. We can all relate to. Sometimes just everything goes wrong, no matter what you do.
That's a big theme in this movie. Like I said before about him, it's the inverse of the hero's journey. He's going to be big, heroic soldier. The girl, Glasha, all she wants is a man and some kids. She ends up being raped so severely that blood is falling from in between her legs like a faucet.
Yeah, that was another thing I was going to bring up is that when you see her, got the whistle in her mouth and you see the blood between her legs, so it's obvious that she was just gang raped horrifically. And I assumed that was going to happen because you see her being grabbed and brought into the back of a truck screaming.
When I first saw that, I thought it was just some random girl. You don't really see her face. So obviously they found all those villagers on that island and killed every one of them. There's no denying that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I felt the same way at first. I wasn't sure if it was her, but then when you see her, you're like, okay, yeah, two and two together.
Her face too. She ended up going from happy, healthy, pretty young girl to zombie.
Right. Basically, as soon as he sees her, he brings up the children thing. As he sees all the blood in her legs, he brings up the children. So that's another thing of
She's not even walking right. She can barely fucking stand, let alone walk.
that brings up the parallel of her in the woods talking about wanting children, and then that parallel. So it's the director, he does have that. He's showing each side of the coin. He's showing how things rapidly change. And he had a very, very specific vision of what he wanted to do. And even the beginning of the film, when his uncle is saying, don't dig, and when he finds his uncle burned alive and saying he shouldn't have dug, so that's another parallel.
For Americans, petrol is what everybody else calls gas. The barn scene, too. As they're lighting a barn full of people on fire, they begin clapping.
Yeah, and they're all smiling and laughing. And yeah, it's just, it shows, once again, it's like I already knew the only good Nazi is a dead fucking Nazi. And I will say, as I was watching this, I thought about Inglourious Basterds a lot, because this movie, it doesn't have that joyous, spoilers for Inglourious Basterds, you should have already seen it.
We're going 3 levels.
Yeah, but when they just fucking turn Hitler's head into Swiss cheese, this movie doesn't really have that closure, even though you don't really see them get shot. You just see the images of them shooting the guns. You don't have that feeling of justice. Yeah, you don't feel like anything was really accomplished. Nothing was accomplished. Everything's horrible. This has ravaged the world. You hear the Nazis speak.
Платят заразу коммунизма.
Ihr dürft nicht bestehen.
Вас не должно быть.
Und die Mission wird erfüllt.
И миссия будет исполнена.
Heute oder morgen.
Сегодня или завтра.
It is important for people to remember that this happened, and this didn't even happen 100 years ago. Millions upon millions of people were just brutally killed for nothing.
For ideology.
Yeah, that's why there's so many World War II movies. It's romanticized. We do need to keep being reminded of, you can't let something like this be forgotten.
Well, the thing with Inglourious Basterds, this is my crackpot interpretation of it, is you're not supposed to enjoy. The whole point is sort of pointing a mirror at you. You're laughing at someone being beaten to death with a baseball bat, and for all we know, he's just a soldier. Hadn't done anything wrong, is just fighting with his friends.
I propose to you, any disease a rat could spread, a squirrel could equally carry.
There was a lot of Germans who refused to hit Jews and didn't believe in this. I just feel like, how could you go along with this? And you see the soldiers clapping and even taking a young child and just throwing it.
A mother and her child get out. They grab the mother, throw her to the rape pile, grab the kid, and literally just toss him right back into the church.
It shows how the mindset of just thinking these people are subhuman. You know, they're not human beings. They're nothing.
They deserve to be killed. They deserve to be shot and burned in a church.
You know, like I said, it's like I'm very familiar with these kinds of things and imagery, and it is important to really remember.
This happened.
And it's horrific. It really is.
Even in the face of his executioners, one of the soldiers is still dehumanizing the Belarusians like it's a Nazi propaganda film.
Right. Yeah, he's just saying not every race deserves to exist.
Unbelievable. And the collaborator is like the one dude who speaks, I think they speak Russian. I don't know if Belarusian is its own language or not, but he's saying, I want to know part of this. The orders came from up top. Minutes earlier, We see him and two others drag an old woman out of her house and lay her in the middle of the village, laughing, insulting her and stuff.
Yeah, talking about how she'll be able to have children or something like that. Something about we want to leave you so you can procreate.
Well, really, this movie is about for me is at the end, right before he starts shooting the Hitler the Liberator portrait. There's a new recruit standing by him, wide-eyed, maybe not smiling, but it's a reflection of Leora himself. He went in with visions of glory, and now he's a shell. He's not even a person anymore, in some respects.
Yeah, and that's the only time he fires his gun.
What is your interpretation of that? What do you think Mr. Klimov was going for?
The only thing that I can think of, and it's the whole adage of, oh, if you could go back in time, what would you do? You'd kill baby Hitler. Because he's showing all of this footage and he's reversing it. We're going back and then we go to a picture of, I believe it's baby Hitler with his mother. And so I think the mindset is, oh yeah, if you could go back in time, if you could reverse time, could you kill this little infant? Which is something that's, I think we've talked about. It's been said a million times. Oh, go back and kill baby Hitler. It was interesting to see that footage, rewounds like that. Did it really work for me? I'm going to be honest, no. I found the constant him shooting his gun, the close-up of his gun into the frame. It was excessive to me. I understand it was very important for him as the director. It's interesting, and he has a very clear vision, and that's something that's lacking in a lot of film, you can't deny. But that's my interpretation of it. I would kill baby Hitler or something.
That's why I find the production title of this movie interesting. It was originally going to be called Kill Hitler.
Too on the nose, right?
Yeah, it may have worked. It may have made that ending work a little bit better. I'm kind of with you, but kind of not at the same time. It goes to his vision and it worked. Does it go on a little bit too long? Sure. After all this drama, he's going to go back in time, reverse all of it, and kill Hitler, and he does it, but all of this happened anyways. You're still here. Your entire family's still dead. The woman who, I don't know, if not loved, you at least liked because you're laughing and playing around with her and stuff. She's never going to have what she wants. You're never going to have what you want with her.
Yeah, she's basically never going to be able to have children, probably. Which is, I think it's clearly that's what he's saying. And obviously being gang raped like that, I mean, my God. It's a very interesting film.
If it goes back to your in twos, the other side of the coin, the Nazi soldier blowing the whistle and having them run around in circle, whipping them and stuff, and she walks up with a whistle in her mouth blowing it. You see his reaction to hearing that whistle. He cowers. Oh, shit, there's no way I'm going to be able to talk my way out of this one.
I like it when filmmakers do that, when they set up something. Well, it's not even that it's set up. It's you're seeing something. It's a setup, but you're not really supposed to know that it's a setup, that there's this reoccurring motifs, multiple throughout the film, of image and then payoff for that image and the dichotomy of that. I like it when filmmakers do that. Even if the movie doesn't work for me, I really like that. I think it's a really great film technique.
Do you respect the forethought that they're giving you something that is meaningless when you first see it, but later on it has all the meaning in the world?
And it goes to my problem with newer films. What they would do is that when you see that image, instead of thinking about the original image, they'll show you a flashback. Like, oh, remember this that happened in the movie earlier? And they don't do that.
The first thing that pops in my head is the Joker, where we're going 4 levels deep, we're in the subconscious. Spoilers for the Joker. I was fairly certain that he was just imagining this relationship with this woman. And then when they come out and tell you, basically, oh, let's have a flashback, but this time we'll show him at the spots where they were talking to himself, laughing to himself.
Yeah, I don't like that. And that's a studio thing. That's a note thing. I prefer to just think about it.
It goes back, speaking of other side of the coins, it goes back to what we were saying earlier, who to recommend this thing to. People, studios, filmmakers think that the mass majority of the audiences are stupid, I guess. And they may be right.
Yeah, I mean, God knows what a focus-tested version of this film.
Oh, Jesus.
Probably would have been cut down to an hour and 10 minutes.
Oh my God. Did it feel overly long to you at all?
Once again, it's going back to it's methodical. So immediately that leaves my mind, like within 10 minutes of the movie, I'm like, okay, this director is holding shots. He's not cutting away. He's letting the scene breathe. But that's the point. It's to hold on images, to hold on characters' faces, to hold on them going through anguish, to be frustrated by what they're going through. And I just think that's very intentional from him.
Something else I wanted to bring up, but I forgot until now. What point would you say it turns where he realizes, I'm not going to be hero? There's no glory in this.
What's the point when he kind of is giving up?
Yeah. What would you say?
Huh. Man, that's tough.
I think it's the barn, when he escapes the barn. Right then.
And he escapes the barn.
Or escapes the church.
Okay, when he gets out and they pull him aside.
He truly realizes what a nothing he is.
I don't know. I mean, maybe even when he's in the barn. When he's in the barn, that's another frustrating thing. It's not the film's fault. It's frustration over what was done to these people, because how can you all march into the barn? Yeah, I know obviously if you fight back, you're going to get shot.
Well, in the scene previous, he gets really, really upset. He doesn't say anything, but you can see it. The soldiers come waiting on them hand and foot. He pours them a drink. They give him their food. He looks really, really, really frustrated and upset. Another big thing for me was when he's lying in the nest with Glasha. He's talking about, my mother's going to love you. We're going to go there, eat good food. Then we'll meet up with Commander Kosach again, and as soon as he says that, she covers his mouth. Dude, you're still not getting it. This isn't good. This isn't fun. This isn't courageous. We're just trying to survive right now.
That tied into 1917, which is just a survival movie.
Would you recommend 1917?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I thought 1917 that's a movie that I could easily recommend to everyone. And not because it's sanitized, but it's more palatable. I think for an audience, it's English. That's going to be a big barrier for a lot of people. I think it's easier to kind of understand where the movie's going, because he has to get to a certain place at a certain time. Whereas with this film, it's free flowing. It's just, there's no like, oh, we're on a mission. It's just, I'm going through this nightmare hellscape.
I'm in the middle of a Nazi invasion of a Slavic state.
Right. Yeah, you're just in it, and things are happening, and that's it.
Do you kind of see, there's in the beginning and several parts throughout the movie, we see the
spy plane
flying overhead. Do you kind of see it as like an anti or a reverse monolith from like 2001?
I didn't get that. I didn't get that.
My reasoning for that is the monolith brings knowledge, evolution. This plane brings horror.
Another thing that's constantly brought up throughout the film is seeing the spy plane. I think they show it maybe 4 times in the film. The reoccurring kind of motif. I like that. I like when filmmakers do that, because it shows a very, very high level of just caring about the material. You have to give credit. Credit's due there.
From what I've read, Mr. Ilham Klimov was a very sort of subversive filmmaker. If I had access to some of his other films, I would really like to see them.
There's another film, I think it's at the library, called Agony, that he did. We should tell people that he retired after making this movie. He didn't want to make any more films. I guess it was so traumatic. I also found out that basically he started going gray while making the film, which isn't shocking to me, especially when you're using live ammunition. Very difficult subject matter. He had a very specific idea, and I'm sure his other films are very disturbing as well. I think he did a movie on Rasputin. I think that movie Agony is about Rasputin.
I definitely got to get to my local library and get that then.
I think this is doing pretty well I think this is going to be very successful for Criterion, so I could see his other films being released by them for sure.
I hope so. Well, I mean, before the Criterion release, all you had was a DVD from Moss Film that was $30.
Yeah, I mean, listen, film preservation is an important thing, regardless if you like the film. I'm happy that people are going to be able to see it, that his movies are going to get restored. That's an important thing. And especially the fact that this movie came out in the mid 80s. I mean, 85. You don't want movies to get lost. That's not that long ago. Even though this feels like it was made way, 70s.
70s?
Yeah. It definitely doesn't feel like a movie from the 80s at all to me.
Apparently it took 10 or 20 years for him to get this made. I guess, I don't know, the commies didn't like the story or didn't want to show themselves as weak or something maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I know that this didn't come out, I think, into the U.S. in 1987. It was 2 years after it came out. It took to just come to the States.
That Iron Curtain is thick.
But at that time, I think a lot of filmmakers were fighting for foreign films to come to the U.S. I know Ridley Scott and Spielberg were fighting for Kurosawa's Ran, which came out around the same time, to come out in the U.S. I think I might have heard something about Spielberg bringing this movie up before. So maybe that's why it got released in the U.S. eventually.
How crazy is it that just if a film's in a different language, 90% of the audience refuses to watch it? Unless it's, what was that one? Life is Beautiful. Unless,
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
yeah, it's got to be marketed to hell. It's got to have really, really great word of mouth. Otherwise, you're going to get like 10 or 20 million tops from the U.S.
Yeah, what you have to do is you have to trick your audience. There's two filmmakers who did that. Danny Boyle did that with Slumdog Millionaire. Like half of the movie's in English, the other half is in Hindu. And Glorious Bastards is a foreign film. I think only 20% is in English. If you look it up, I think Brad Pitt and the crew is only in 20 or 30% of the movie. Yeah, it's a stealth foreign film, which you look at both of those, they're extremely successful. They made a lot of money. You have to trick people into seeing a foreign film, unfortunately.
I watched the new updated Criterion trailer for this. It still bothers me if it's a foreign film. They just don't include any dialogue in the preview.
Yeah, I will say that the audio does sound kind of weird to me. And so it's interesting that you brought that up about the track on the disc. Because I didn't watch the Criterion version, but
you streamed it, right? You streamed it legally,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. I streamed it completely legally. The audio seemed a little weird, especially the very beginning of the film when his uncle's talking. I was like, is this ADR? Like, is this another actor dubbed?
There was a few moments of that for me. I can't remember specifically, but maybe it's just because it's in a different language. We're not used to seeing...
I'm not used to Russian film at all. So, are there any final thoughts you want to say on the film? Anything you want to bring up?
Exponential rise of terror. That's what I really like about this movie. As soon as you get a plan or have an idea of what's going to happen, what these guys are going to do, it blows up right in their face tenfold. The images, obviously I love. The audio, I'd like it if you just include another track. Help me out. I want to hear bullets whizzing from one speaker to another.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't remaster the audio, but Criterion, they're very specific about the things they do.
All right, so I guess that'll wrap up Come and See E.D. Smotri or Kill Hitler. Full recommendation for me. I know I said earlier, only if you're a film buff. I don't care. Suffer through it, you goddamn morons. Like I said, I'd fully recommend this movie. You can get it in the Criterion Collection, the Criterion app, or you could watch it illegally.
Something.
And I'm guessing your thoughts haven't changed either.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think if you're into war films and you love foreign film and you just want to expand your knowledge of film, then yeah, absolutely. I think this is going to be challenging for a lot of people to even stay focused. If you're going to look at your phone, just turn the movie off. Don't even watch it. If you stare down away from the movie, you've lost the whole point.
Make it a really happy, fun movie night. Come and see Das Boot and Stalingrad.
Of a Russian off.
Fun for the whole family.
Член Распутина находится в музее. Мой должен быть в вашем рту.